Baby, you're the best thing move. Baby, you're the best thing smoke. Baby, you're the best thing that ever happened to me. Baby, you're my good thing now. You gon' be my good thing forever. Baby, you're the best thing that ever happened to me. You are.
Hey y'all, what's up? What's happening? How are y'all doing out there? This is Pretty Girl Loves Trap content. This is my review for Snowfall Season 4, Episode 8, Betrayal. Guys, this was an awesome episode. It was up there for me in the ranks. Like, it was good. It ended on a smooth and sweet note. But we will get to that later. So the episode starts off with Teddy. He's in the jungle. He's searching for that camp where he helped supply the guns and everything. And he's a little disheveled. He gets some booger sugar to kind of get him going. And he noticed that the camp is burnt to a crisp and everybody is dead. And he is knocked out of nowhere upon discovering the camp. And so next scene switched over to the barbershop. Everybody's talking about her trifling ass article. And they didn't release Franklin's name, but they referred to him as Mr. X, as everybody is saying that, even though it's saying Mr. X, we know it's Franklin Saint. We know who exactly she's talking about. And they're just discussing the whole situation with conspiracies and drugs and the government and everything. And behind that barbershop is Manboy, Scully, and Khadijah. They're in the back talking about the article and how, they know it's Franklin and how the CIA is the plug. And Manboy is talking about, I need to get in that. I need some of that. To my surprise. And I thought with Manboy knowing about the CIA, that will make him back off and nervous. But he's extra hyped about it, saying that, there's a free get out of jail card. And, having the CIA as your plug is an ultra connect. And Scully and Khadijah, they ain't trying to hear it. They was like, Nigga, you is crazy. And Manboy was like, we need to kill Franklin and Leon so we can go ahead and replace them. And so back at Aunt Louie's club, Franklin, Aunt Louie, Uncle Jerome, and Peaches, they're having a little meeting talking about the article. Uncle Jerome is pissed, of course, calling Alton a little snitch. And I don't know, I'm surprised that Peaches, he's sticking around for everything. He's not really showing any, particular emotions at this point. He just seemed like the ride or die right now. But I'm interested in knowing kind of what's going on in his brain. They don't really talk about him too much, but he's always by, Franklin's side, being his driver, his right-hand man. So, I'm interested about Peaches and his whole situation and what he feels about, the CIA, because they never really revealed his true feelings about the situation. So, Aunt Louie, she's asking about Reed. Like, hey, Franklin, you heard from Reed? He was like, nah, I ain't heard from him because, last episode he was asking Gustavo to reach out to Reed because he wasn't responding to Franklin's pages. So, of course, he hasn't heard from Reed because Reed is in the goddamn jungle. And he was with Avi in either Panama or Nicaragua. I believe it was Panama last episode. And they had the whole missing money situation. So, Reed hasn't gotten back to Franklin. Of course, everybody looking worried like, damn, this Negro done ditched us. We out here by ourselves. And Franklin's pretty much saying, hey, if Ish was to go down, I'm going to take the hit. Y'all don't got to worry about it. I've taken care of every situation we've came across. I took care of Andre. I took care of Kevin. I'm good. Like, if y'all don't have no constructive suggestions, leave me the F alone and let that be that. So we see Irene's ass. She's at the office with her boss. They're going over the part 2 of the article. And I'm like, you ain't saying enough yet. Like, part 2? Like, what the hell is this? Trapped in the Closet, part 1 through 36? What's going on? So, they're editing her story. And the little intern, he's all geek saying that, we've getting all of these gifts and bottles of champagne and all these big time companies giving us a call. The New York Times is calling us about the article. Like, we getting some real clout. And Irene, she not fazed. She was like, that's cool and all, but run me my coffee. I'm not trying to celebrate right now. So the intern tells her, like, hey, you got a phone call from Mr. X, which is, of course, Franklin. So Franklin calls Irene for a meetup, pretty much saying, like, hey, you want the rest of my story? You on my side? So she was like, all right, cool. We'll meet up later. So back at T's house, of course, we have the revelation that she has been working with Manboy. I swear, if I didn't find out who she was working with by this episode, I was going to write somebody. Somebody at FX, Snowfall. Like, I was tired of trying to figure out who she has been working with. But of course, most of the clues led to Manboy. And Manboy is pretty much like, yo, I'm tired of waiting. You ain't give up the information about the plug. Like, you're not really providing much detail. So I'm going to give you to the end of the week to find out who the plug is. If not, you and your brother is dead. And, she was like, Franklin's smart. He's going to figure this out. And when he does, I'm going to be a dead woman. So honestly, she has no good options at this point. If Franklin find out she's dead, if she don't come through for Manboy, she's dead. So she's in an effed up position right now. And I don't care. Good for her little trifling behind. I'm so over her. Like, she needs to die next episode. Like, for real. So back at the jungle, Teddy wakes up and he discovers he was knocked out by this young woman who, seemed to be like the soul survivor. Hey, I'm a soul survivor. Sorry. Shout out to Jeezy. Just thought about that song. I need to play that later. So she's pretty much trying to figure out who he is. He explains, hey, I'm an American. I'm in the CIA, and she was like, oh, so you're the reason why everyone's dead. Because, mind you, he was responsible for providing the ammunition, the guns. So, she kind of, makes him walk a little bit, and he notices his contact, the woman he's been working with, is dead. So he whimpers, and, he's very sad, and he cries, and he cries. Oh, poor little Teddy. He just need a little hug, y'all. Like, whatever. So back at Teddy's headquarters, Gustavo's sitting there at the little desk. He's reading the article and, I'm wondering what's going on in his brain. So Teddy's CIA coworker comes in and he's like, hey, I'm trying to just retrieve some paperwork from the office. That's it. So he runs upstairs and see that the door is locked. He comes downstairs. He's like, you got a key? So Gustavo was like, I'm not going to let you in. He was like, the CIA guy was like, yo, I'm Teddy's boss. And Gustavo was like, you're not my boss. Gustavo got some balls. Like, I like his character. He a little off sometimes, but I don't have no beef with Gustavo at this point. So Irene meets up with Franklin at this bar. And long story short, he pretty much warned her, like, what you're doing is pretty damn dangerous. I mean, at the end of the day, you are releasing a lot of important information about a lot of important people and organizations. And Franklin, flexes a little bit and mentions the name of her ex-husband and her daughter, which kind of shows like, these people can't be touched. And Irene was like, you can't threaten me. And he was like, well, I'm not the one you need to be worried about. And it's kind of cute at the end of the little meetup. Franklin walks over to these guys playing pool and asks, who winning? And that was like a little nugget I'm sure they put in the script because that Franklin kind of, Lord, I can't talk. Franklin kind of pulled a little boss move on Irene. Like, you kind of effed up right now. So I'm not worried. You should be worried. So Alton, he goes to Sissy's house and she's still pissed. Like, you confided in a stranger, a reporter, before you confided in me. And I know Alton, he didn't think that Sissy or anybody would hear him out because it's against what the family needed at that point. And I understand, I'm married, and if my husband was to go ahead and snitch on us and our, illegal empire, if we had one, without telling me, like, that would piss me off. Like, you don't do that. You have to move as a unit. And you never know, Alton, if he would have talked to Sissy or Franklin, they could have figured out a way to resolve everything. But I think Alton knows that CIA and Franklin is dangerous, and they most likely would have killed Irene. And I know he didn't want that. But Alton proceeds to say, hey, I got, my friend. He's getting us some fake passports. We got money. We got each other. We could be in Havana by the end of the night. And I ain't gonna lie, that was kind of romantic. I was like, that sounds like a little cute vacay, even though it will be a long-ass vacation for them. But he was pretty much saying like, hey, we have each other. Franklin, he could figure it out. And, we have the rest of our lives to think of. And Sissy, at this point, she was like, I'm not trying to leave my little baby boy. I'm not doing it. Going somewhere. So Alton, he proceeds to leave, but he tells her to think on it. And, if she decides to come with, to leave a message at the shelter, and it would get to him. So we see Teddy's CIA co-worker or boss or whatever. He brings some reinforcement. He got 2 other big behind dudes coming back to Teddy's office, and they come to find out that the office has been wiped clean, not a document in sight. Gustavo was smart. He made sure everything was cleared, even the safe. And so back at the club, Louie and Jerome, they're arguing about attending Fatback's funeral. And Louie, she was smart. She was like, it's not safe. We in the middle of a war. We can't be exposed like that. Like Scully, Manboy, Khadijah, they all would know to expect us there, so we don't need to go. But Jerome was like, hey, these dudes in the projects, they're the only people I can trust. I have to show love. I have to show my respect. And, Jerome's an OG, and he knows there's nothing more important to an OG than some respect. Maybe some Reggie weed, but respect is important. And Jerome, you could tell he is tired of the BS. He's tired of being considered a little, minion. Like, he's always feeling like, I could tell, taking orders from Louie or Franklin, and he's about to boss up, y'all. Like, I'm telling y'all, season 5, Uncle Jerome ain't playing around with anyone. Like, I could just tell he's tired. And, at the beginning, I believe it was season 1 or 2 when they first, started to get into the coke game or the crack game, they were supposed to be partners, but it seems as though Franklin has always been at the forefront. And I believe Jerome's cut was 30% when they made the deal. I'm not too sure. But yeah, they definitely have been playing Uncle Jerome, and he's tired of it. And he's going to be turning into a nice, beautiful monster, and I cannot wait to see it. So back at the jungle, Teddy, he's giving old girl some food. You could tell she hasn't eaten in a while. She's just tearing that food up. And he gave her a wad of cash and told her, hey, start a new life. I'm going to be leaving in the morning. So you go ahead and figure it out. So Franklin is at his office. He looked in all stressed and worried. And he's looking at some bank documents. And I see a balance of like over $21 million. And so I'm like, and that's just in the bank. Like, I'm sure they got money, cash somewhere stored in other places that maybe have just been one bank. I think he still had possibly some money overseas. I think he had some money in New Jersey. I'm not sure if that's the same statement he's looking at, but he's caked up. Caked the F up. And my thought is, I'm not sure. I think Franklin is more about the power than the actual money. But at this point, I'm like, Franklin, can't you be happy with your 21 mil in the current properties that you guys have? Like, they have at least one apartment building that Sissy has been looking over. I feel like that's enough to live a comfortable life. Just, not splurge and go too crazy with your 21 mil. But that can last y'all forever, or figure out some other endeavors, open up some other businesses. Real estate is very lucrative, but there are so many avenues, to go and use that money. And I don't know what more they want at this point. So, of course, T asks, I'm so tired of his old flame / new flame. So she comes in offering to step up and put in some overtime, talking about, if you need anything, I got you. I'm like, girl, bye. Like, she got a lot of heat. Like, Manboy gave her to the end of the week. So I'm not sure if it's Thursday or Friday, but that time is ticking right now. And, Franklin pretty much declines and says, I'm cool. But I'm just like, Franklin, please wake up. She is up to something. Come on. Just, Lord, I'm so annoyed at this point. So Sissy's at the house and she gets a visitor. And it's Paul Davis's assistant. And she was like, hey, I was just about to go meet Paul Davis. What's going on? So long story short, he hands her a little envelope and pretty much is returning the church donation that her and Franklin gave. And to my understanding, it was like $250,000. Now, I know this is TV, but I'm like, that envelope did not contain the entire $250,000. Like, did Davis charge them a drug dealer fee? Like, what's going on here? But anywho, Irene, she's back at the office and her boss is pretty much telling her, we can't release this part 2 situation. We can't possibly reveal a CIA agent's identity. Is dangerous. It's going to affect him as well as his contacts and all the players. And we see the people from the Pentagon, the big boys, they pull up at the office hey, we put the conference room. We need to talk. So we see the funeral. So Leon, Peaches, Franklin, and T's old raggedy behind. I was so mad when I saw him pulling up with her raggedy behind at the funeral. They all loved up and whatever. I'm like, are you serious, Franklin? You got this raggedy chick? It's two-faced chick. And she got this two-tone color block blazer. It was green on one side and black on the other. Yeah, that was fitting for her character. So, Dion, he's showing his appreciation to Jerome and everybody about, showing love and attending the funeral. And we see Khadijah at a stakeout with the city girls, a little ways back, just scoping out the scene. And you could tell they're pretty much just waiting to, pretty much for Franklin. And they see him. And then we also cut to Leon getting Jerome's attention, hey, there's Aunt Louie. So Aunt Louie is walking up very slowly to the funeral. Everybody's pretty much outside. And I already knew at this point Ish was about to go down. I'm getting real nervous at this point. Next thing we see is Khadijah and the city girls. They just start blasting and just shooting at everybody. Aunt Louie is screaming. She got hit, and you would tell she lost a lot of blood. And Uncle Jerome, he's crying and upset. It was a lot, guys. And Franklin just sitting there looking helpless with his old wobbly cane. So at the hospital, everybody's waiting around while she's in surgery. And Franklin tells Leon, keep an eye out for Unc. Just make sure, he stays here because we know he is going to want to retaliate. And so, Franklin and Leon, they're kind of talking about, the whole situation with Manboy. And T, she's offering all this intel saying, her name is Khadijah, the person who was there, because Franklin originally thought it was Manboy and Scully. But Leon was like, nah, it was, the girl's mother that he killed. So T is just offering all this extra info. I can find out for you, Franklin. And I'm like, Franklin, can't you see she's inserting herself way too much? The average woman, if you ride or die, don't get me wrong, you're going to do a lot for your man. But all this heat going on, you're going to kind of scale back a bit. You're not going to try to insert yourself even more into a dangerous situation. I felt Franklin should have realized that, but he got a lot going on. So I could see him, slipping in certain areas, but this was not the situation where he needed to lose focus. So we see Irene and her ex. They're at Irene's house, and she's kind of packing up a few things, and she's talking about going off the grid until, she figure out the situation with the article. And he's pretty much telling her like, hey, I'm proud of you. You've been strong through this whole thing. I know this is what you always wanted. And he offered, for her to kind of stay with him. And she was like, no, I just want one more night at my house. And when she said that line, I'm like, yeah, this is going to be your last night. I already told that line was a dead giveaway. And I knew it was going to be a wrap. So we see T, she calls Manboy and tell him to control Khadijah. Like, she just shot up the funeral situation and, caught him by surprise. So she was like, I can't work my magic unless you get Khadijah under wraps. So Teddy and his coworker briefed because Teddy just got back from the jungle. And, they pretty much discussed the article and that whole situation because at this time, Teddy doesn't know anything about the article. So we cut back to the hospital, and Franklin and Sissy have this very important talk. They're pretty much, just discussing how, everything that's going on. She's saying we are back at this hospital again. Another one of us is fighting to survive because not too long ago, Franklin was in the hospital fighting from his gunshot wounds. And she's updating him on Paul Davis's deal. That's pretty much in the toilet. And he said, he's just scared. We'll find another investor. They're going to need us. He's still optimistic. And Sissy's like, nah, like we're never going to be legit. Not with this article out. And I'm moving out of the house. I'm moving away from South Central. And I'm like, Sissy, girl, you had all this time to move away. And now you want to move now. And I get it. Louis just got shot. Article is released. So I get it. But I'm like, girl, you should have been moved. And, Franklin confirmed, like, not with Alton, right? Like, he ain't playing about Alton. He don't want no parts of him. And she was like, no, not with Alton. And, she says, like, I'm no longer mother and wife first. It's time for me to start taking care of myself. I was like, yes, girl, cue the Mary J. Blige music, Destiny's Child, all the independent situations. Yes, finally. Start thinking about yourself. Like, you have to at this point. And, Franklin was like, don't make any moves right now. Just give me a couple hours. We're going to figure everything out. So Franklin and Teddy meet up about the article because this is their first time meeting in a while. And Franklin was like, where the hell you been? Was you drunk somewhere in the ditch? Like, I've been out here dealing with all this mess and you was nowhere to be found. So, Teddy, he looks up at Franklin and he has some like little blood spots on his suit. And, he pretty much updates Teddy like Louis was shot. And Teddy actually looked concerned, like he, for the first time in a while, not really in a while, because he was kind of concerned and remorseful when he was in the jungle and found out that his contact and everyone was dead. So I feel like Teddy is kind of getting his emotions back, his feelings back. I just feel like he was numb for a while. And maybe at this point, he's kind of waking up a little bit and he's going to be on his grind. I'm just hoping Teddy, has snapped out of his little drugging situation. But long story short, Franklin says, hey, I tried to take care of the reporter. She ain't listen. So Teddy was like, I'm going to handle the reporter. You put a muzzle on your father. But the most important takeaway from this conversation, Teddy was like, at this point going forward, do not trust anyone. Everyone at this point is trying to survive and is going to do what's best for them. And you can tell once Teddy said that, Jerome's wheels was spinning, Franklin wheels was spinning. And you can tell he's kind of processing a lot right now. So Franklin, he immediately heads back to the hospital and he asked, Leon, hey, where's my mom? He said, hey, once Louis was stable out of surgery, she went ahead and left. And so Jerome is talking about pay back. He's ready to knuck if you buck on those dudes. So he has called back to Louis's room because the nurse came and got him because, at this time she has just been out of surgery. But Jerome was like, hey, once I get done, we're going to roll up on them fools. So, Leon, T, and Franklin, they're in a little huddle. So T is offering all this intel on Manboy and the city girls, talking about the girls' names, that they were ex-strippers, and all this information. And she's pretty much saying like, hey, you can get out of this. Just give Manboy the plug and work out a deal with him. And Franklin said he'll think about it. But this was the point that drove everything home for Franklin, I believe, because T was talking way too much. And she kind of started switching up what she called Manboy, because she was calling him Manboy. Then she started calling him Drew. Now, I do believe they all went to school together, so I can understand her knowing his government name. But I don't know, that I think struck a little nerve with Franklin. So Franklin, once, T kind of sits down somewhere, he'd say, hey, Peaches. Sorry, that was a horrible West Coast / Franklin interpretation. But he tells him to go to the car, and he looks at T and tells her to go head home, make the call to Manboy. I got some things to handle. So we see Uncle Jerome, and he see Aunt Louie in the hospital bed, and he breaks down. Like, the acting in this scene, oh God, like I really connected with this moment because I've been there. I've seen someone in the hospital and had the exact same emotion. When you see someone you love in that type of state, you try to hold on it. So I could tell he was just fighting his emotion and trying to stay strong at the same time. But the whimpers and the cries, like, Eamon did his job. He did a great job, actually, in this scene. And so he just kind of at the bed and just kind of holding, Louie, and just kind of touching, her forehead. And you can kind of see they did a little pan to his hand. You can see there's little spatters of blood on his nails and on his jewelry. And I feel like that was kind of symbolic, pretty much saying that possibly her blood is on his hands. Like, literally, she warned him, hey, we shouldn't go to this funeral. It's dangerous. And she ends up showing up for him, and look what happened. So it's just some great storytelling, guys. So we see Irene, she sleep on her couch, and Teddy and Gustavo inject her with some little sleeping agent. When they kind of approached her, they kind of covered her mouth. So she woke up a little bit and was startled. And Teddy said, hey, you'll wake up in the morning, but next time you will not wake up. So I don't know. It's not looking too good for little ass Irene right now. So we see Jerome. He leaves the room with Aunt Louie, and he tells pretty much Leon, like, hey, let's go to the projects. It's time to strap up to get Manboy. Like, I ain't playing no games right now. So Leon was being level-headed. He was level-headed and pretty much, just calm the entire episode. And he was telling Uncle Jerome, like, Franklin just told up just to stay put, not to do anything. And Uncle Jerome was like, F Franklin. They shot up my baby. And I was just like, I felt that. Like, it kind of reminded me of the scene in Paid in Full when Mitch was in the car. Like, it really gave me some Mekhi Phifer vibes. So we see T. She's at home. She calls Manboy. She at her house. And she looked stressed. And she was just frazzled. She was like, yo, hey, Franklin's ready to do the deal. I want my money. I want to make sure my brother's good. Like, you got what you wanted. Like, leave me out of it. So she goes, hangs up the phone, and she kind of lays on her little recliner. And the next thing we see is Franklin's shoes in the shot, the good old church shoes, good old funeral shoes. Oh my God, the Stacey Adams, whatever they were. We see him kind of, walking up next to her. Now, at this point, she has no idea Franklin is around because, again, she's at home. She thinks she's alone. So, he kind of makes himself aware in the situation, and she steps up like, oh my God, he was in the back room somewhere in her bedroom, kind of staking out. You see Peaches, he got a gun to her head, and Franklin was like, hey, T. Sorry, another bad rendition of the West Coast accent. But he was like, how long you been playing me? And she just looking like, oh, shit. Y'all, this was so good. I feel so vindicated. I'm so happy. So pretty much once he says that sentence, the episode goes off. And this great song appears at the end. I don't know who sings it, what the name of it is, but it was some kids chanting, that's how the good Lord works. And Lord, that was so fitting. It was like it seems like a happy song, but the situation wasn't too happy. But I was happy, okay? T got a gun to her face, and she has been revealed as a snitch or whatever. I'm happy. Like, I literally was going to sleep like a baby. Like, I was so happy, y'all. Like, so I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen next episode. I kind of feel like he may not kill her. I'm not sure, because I feel like she may be valuable a little longer, maybe using her as a pawn to kind of reel in Manboy. I think he may use her a little more. But I'm curious. I got some questions. Like, we didn't see Wanda this episode. I know she's not really important right now, but she's still out there in them streets, y'all. And honestly, I'm not getting a good feeling. Last time we saw her, she was stressed about money. She wasn't doing what she was supposed to do in terms of getting a job. The shelter, we don't know what's going to happen at the shelter at this point. And I'm a little concerned. Like, I don't know, y'all. And then Sissy, she bounced. So where's she going? Like, you going to Cuba? Are you going to Philadelphia? Where you going to go, girl? Like, come on, let a sister know. So, y'all, this was a great episode. We have 2 more episodes left. I am excited. How did y'all feel about the episode? Just let me know. Please like this video if you enjoyed everything I've said and commentated on. Please subscribe to my channel. Please leave a comment. But I will see you guys next week. Thank you for listening. Bye.